Hey guys, you're about to get into an episode of the Pointman podcast, but before we do that, I want to tell you this. Pointman, the physical semester, the meat and potatoes of what it means to grow in your relationship as a man to other men and then to God is through Pointman Live. January 22nd, we kick off the new semester. It's called War Cry. War Cry is not a conversation about corporate worship. I'm not going to play guitar and try to make you sing songs. We're talking about a truly personal daily worship with God, what that looks like in the life of a man. It is going to be an incredible semester. If you've ever heard of stories like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, if you've ever heard of Paul and Silas finding themselves in prison and so much more, we're diving deep into those topics this semester. War Cry, worship is the war cry of the church. We'll see you there. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Pointman podcast. This podcast is designed to help men connect to their Bible, to learn and to grow, and to make Jesus known to men everywhere. I'm Zach. I am the Connections and Pointman pastor here at that church, and I'm joined today by Shane.
Hello, good morning.
It is New Year's Eve in the house.
Yep.
Any New Year's resolutions?
I don't know, just continually be on fire for God. There's your church answer. But, no, actually, I do have a New Year's resolution. So with the hospital stay that I had, I dropped weight. I was at 185 pounds, like ringing. That's what I was at. I dropped down to 162 when I got out of there.
Dang.
And so, yeah. And then
fifth grade.
Right. Yeah. And so then, getting back healthy again, I gained that weight back, but it wasn't the weight that I thought it would kind of lose weight. I lost half of that weight again. I'm back to 172. And so like I told Leanne, I was like, I want to bulk up. That's all I want to do.
Gonna be hitting the grocery store and then weights.
Yeah, man. I told her, I was like, man, I can't, I have like my back. Like my back is real sensitive, and just from like maintenance issues or just jumping out of a helicopter as a military personnel is just, I was like, I need to strengthen my core. I was like, I want to redo the one half of the garage and, put some mats down and, just put some simple stuff in there.
I'll sell you some stuff.
Right? Yeah. Zach's got habits to fund.
Yeah.
I need some new discs.
I've got, when we closed our gym, me and my family, we parted out the pieces we wanted.
Yeah.
And so I've got most gyms like dream equipment was in my garage.
Was it cordial or was there fighting amongst y'all when y'all were parting?
No, my brother was going to another gym, so he didn't care. But me and my mom split all the stuff we wanted. And
yeah.
I've sold some pieces away again because I had too much crap. I mean,
I've got all these horse stall mats from Tractor
that's
Supply.
what I've got in my garage.
I got them all. I use them for backstops for archery. You have a brick wall, I do not live in city limits. And so I had these horse stall mats, and I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
We'll put those down. Well, yesterday I was at a rental house just checking vacancies, and they had a total body gym in there. And I was like, don't get on this thing. Don't get on this thing. Because it's got a sled, I'm picturing like Chuck Norris in the 90s doing this. If you remember those commercials?
Yes.
And I'm just like, oh, these info commercials are awful.
Yeah, don't buy fitness equipment from an infomercial.
No, we
had a Bowflex in our house when I was a kid.
The best clothes hanger in my parents' house was a Bowflex. I put that thing together. Like it was one of the first things my dad ever let me get in charge of, and without him like over my shoulder. Like he left for like work or something like that, and I spent the entire day
with like 8 tension rods trying to get them all in there. That kind of stuff is coming back though. I saw there's this I think it's called like the Arena. It's this like cable pressure plate machine thing that you can do all the cable stuff like that on again, but it's like a big plate you carry around or can move around, and it's got a cable with like a tension pulley, and the harder you pull, the more tension it puts against.
I've seen some things where it's like it's a platform.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's like a platform. Then I've seen the ones that are like a wall.
I think they make them that'll do both now. Yeah, and it's something to do with like the tension of the wheel picks up as you pull harder. And so the harder you pull, the more tension it puts, so that you never have a break, essentially.
Yeah, the one that I saw, it was a wall mounted and a big screen on it.
Oh, that's that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, I was looking at it, and it was like
LeBron.
It was like sticking out. It was like sticking out of the wall, like almost like 10 inches or whatever. And I'm like, dude, that thing looks like it's 16 inches on center, like I can cut the drywall out and put that thing in there.
Yeah.
And then I'm got the thing, I was like, that thing's going to overheat inside the wall.
Yeah, so it doesn't get any breath.
Yeah.
New Year's resolutions. I don't make New Year's resolutions.
I don't ever.
Yeah. Planning like that just hurts my soul.
Yeah.
So
I have like lofty goals, like lively goals, most of them are, one-upping my dad in life is like the biggest thing.
This is like the every young man's dream,
right? Because his dad, like my grandfather, is a predominant figure in the family. Like he's very well, he's accomplished a lot of things, and then like I'm like I want to do the same thing. Like he's on fire for God too. Like this man is on probably like every food bank list in Arkansas because he owns a diesel and a gooseneck trailer, and he's got relationships with Kroger's, and all that. And so like he's all, I'm like, I want that. He's constantly on mission. He's not just sitting around, I'm like, I want those connections in life where you're constantly going out like that. But yeah, it's me to get bulked up and continue the mission, I guess.
get swole.
The phone book, get swole for Jesus.
Yeah. I always pick like a thing in the year that I'm going to do. And then typically what'll happen is like everything around my life will kind of become focused in on that goal. I was talking on the episode that came out earlier this week. I was talking with Luke, and we do words of the year around here.
Yeah.
At the church. Last year, my word was learn. I was just focused on reading as much as I could, watching and consuming as much, and learning as much as I could about the Bible and to be able to teach better and to communicate it better. And it became kind of the last half of the year. It really kind of transitioned to transition when I left my career and came on as a pastor here. And so transition kind of took over the end of the year along with learn, as really kind of figuring things out. And along the way this last year, I recognized it earlier in the year, but didn't have the drive to fix it, that I had lost like the adventure in life.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of depressing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just,
to be honest.
Like, it is. Yeah. I came out of years of doing like races and stuff where I would toe the line and had no clue if I could get to the finish.
Yeah.
And it was just the enjoyment. A lot of it wasn't if I had crossed the finish line and been successful, I would have been happy. But if I failed halfway through it, I would have been happy just to have the experience.
Right.
And so somewhere around the year, I actually registered for a race and ended up not going just because I fell off and didn't.
I didn't realize.
train.
I'd noticed that you weren't really, going out and doing all that.
No, I took learn seriously. Like my free time, I would feel bad if I wasn't at home reading something.
That's commitment in a way.
And so I would get,
you formed a new habit.
Yeah, sideways with it. So now I'm back and into that mode. And this year, adventure is my word.
Mine was patience.
Patience.
Did I do that perfectly? No. But yeah, I feel like I've gained a sense of maturity inside of a conversation.
Yeah.
Or inside of what I'm going to butcher this. It was like temporary emotions. Don't let temporary emotions make long-term decisions. That kind of thing.
That's good.
And because, in the past, I would react to something and it would be like, I'm not talking to you forever, Didn't know that you were having a bad day, or didn't know that you felt that strongly about it. And I need to know your perspective. It was just like, no, gone.
Yeah.
But more so in my marriage, or more so like with like my daughter, Sailor, less of a temper, controlling like an anger reaction, or, with work, when I first started with my job 2 years ago, it's a big corporate environment and I'm not used to that. And within like 9 months to almost to 11 months, I was like, we're done with this, because we did a whole revamp of a whole program, and luckily I had a lot of input in it. But the first month of that new when we implemented the program, it was like, we're going to sink this ship, And now that we're a year into that program, I'm like, I can do this for my life now. Like, I've retired at this position if I need to, because the word of the year came around. I was like, let's practice patience.
Sit in this for a minute.
Yeah, and that which directs you to prayer. And I thought I knew what prayer was, but now, so more than ever, it's the first thing. and so maybe for this coming year, it may be something like that, like prayer. Just keep it going.
Yeah. I started a thing about a month ago, where before I get out of bed, even if it's the shortest prayer you've ever heard in your life,
that's what came around.
I'll say a morning prayer before I get up. I'll wake up, my alarm goes off, I turn it off. I will say the prayer immediately, and then I'll get up. Yeah. It could be like, God, please help me through this day. Amen.
No, that's
get out of bed.
Yeah,
but
I have a toothbrush in my mouth, and I'm staring at the mirror, and a prayer is rolling in. Like that's. Oh man, I was trying to, off camera. I was telling you about some of the ups and downs that's going on right now, and for some reason that's changed the habits in the family. We hear about something, we stop what we're doing, and we'll hold hands and pray. We heard something yesterday within the family, and me and Leanna immediately, I put the phone on speaker. I was like, "You got a second?" And we prayed while on speaker.
Yeah.
And then obviously, my daughter spent the night with the grandparents, and we're FaceTiming them. And Sarah's like, "We can't go to bed right now. We got to do prayer." It's a big deal. And starting your day off is probably the best thing you can do, minus waking up.
Yeah, when you wake up, I just think it for me, it doesn't change my next 10 steps in the morning.
Oh yeah, I still
get up, I still grab caffeine and make some breakfast and find my way to the couch for 20 minutes before I go anywhere. But
yeah,
it does reset. Like it gives the importance of the hierarchy of my life. It actually puts it in the right place. Like the first thing in my life is God, and so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to God.
Yeah. So I ask people that are real close to me now, if we are have like an intimate conversation, and you're sharing stuff with me, or I'm sharing stuff with you, and if I could find out like you're lacking in that, I'll ask you, hey, how's your conversations with God? And I've asked Leanna that, and she's like, well, I was like, how many times today have you prayed? Well, just once, let's get on that.
Yeah. Without ceasing.
That's right, man. Yes, man. We can dive into that if you want, but it's a coping mechanism, man. If you want to, it's more. I'm not saying that's all it is. It's not, but like, if I'm going through something rough, and then someone is pouring like words of wisdom into me, like it calms me down. So if I'm in a tough spot or a tough situation, and I go to prayer, the next thing you know, you're kind of hearing, you're going to hear God's voice. You're going to hear what you're saying in prayer, and you're like, okay, this is what the word says. This is where God intervenes now. I'm not the fixer. He's the fixer. So like, there's those things, whether it be your job, bills, marriage, kids, you replay all that in your head, and you're like, okay, let's let God work through me.
It makes you stop and give things to Him.
Yeah.
And things you can't control, or things that are outside of your ability to handle on your own. You don't try to in the same way, because you allow God to work in those times.
Do you write your prayers down or anything like that?
I tried. I've gone through seasons. I actually pulled out an old journal yesterday. I didn't bring it with me today because I went to this men's class years ago, and I had all these notes, and I hadn't found them in years. Yeah. And I found them all in this old journal, and I was kind of flipping through it. And I did back then. I would write a verse of the day. I would write a prayer, or my prayer for the when I would go to bed at night. What I would do is I had an office in my house. I would go back in my office. I would sit down and I would read first the Bible, then I would read a different book, and then I would spend 10, 15 minutes just kind of journaling, for lack of a better. But part of it was the prayer that I prayed before I would leave the office every night.
Yeah, I journaled all of 2023 up until probably like Thanksgiving or something like that, and then now it's more or less. I guess the prayer journal that I developed now is just like a situational base. If someone's going through something pretty hard or whatever, I want to kind of remember who they are and what they're dealing with, and I'll put it in a journal. Because in my lifetime, I've never had like numerous people coming up and be like, "Hey, can you pray for me?" And we consistently stay with it. It's always like in passing, "Hey man, say a prayer for me." and just move on. You forget their name, forget the situation.
I always stop right there and pray for them.
I wasn't intentional about my prayer. I just like, okay, this is part of the faith. We got to do this, like, other than like when I first come to know Christ, like the first 8 months really, it was heavy prayer. I'm dealing with convictions from like past sins, and it just pouring it out constantly. And obviously I'm reading the Bible, so I'm like consistently hearing his voice, And then as habits progressed and the year progressed, I would have to deliberately go into the Bible or deliberately go into prayer. It just didn't, happen, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I think whenever you just said something that just triggered a thought in my about you would go into the Bible and you'd feel the conviction by something. I was reading a book last night actually, and in it he made a great point. He was like, quit trying to pull scripture to prove a point, or quit trying to prove. I mean, you give the inverse. Quit trying to pull scripture that convicts you of something. Rightly divide the scriptures. Read them in context. Think through the context of the conversations that are going on and what's being said. Because we find ourselves in error of the message when we are trying to fit a biblical narrative to our life versus reading the Bible in context of what it is and adjusting to it. And so that when you're going through something and you're praying through something, then you're chat GPT. What does the Bible say about? You're going to get a verse, but you need to pull the Bible up and go through the whole thing.
You're going to feed what's hungry. And if you're hungry to feel God's voice in a certain situation in your life, it's going to manipulate itself. It could be, you made a mistake, so you're going to go find like how to fix your mistakes. It's
not a how-to book.
It's not. It's a glorifying book.
It's God's revelation of who God is to us.
Right.
That's the Bible.
Yeah. And that was so. I don't know if I talked about that before or not, but like that was the misinterpretation of the Bible that I had growing up. Was like, how does this fit your life?
Well, a lot of people read the Bible through the lens of what does this say? What does the Bible say to me? The Bible doesn't say much about you.
No.
It says everything about God.
Yeah.
And so that's also a misconception.
Like the kind of cultural Christian kind of deal.
Yeah.
Or, the American Christianized.
Now, let me say that. I say that with the caveat of the Bible has standards for our life in it.
Yes.
It's not
God's standards.
Yes, for your life, but it's not the book of Shane.
No.
Or the book of Zach.
No,
it's that's not what it is.
Yeah, it's the greatest love story ever written.
Yeah, and it's a revelation, and it's a living, breathing document, and it's incredible.
Bible's up in the Hebrews. I'm thinking about coffee.
Hebrews.
Yeah.
Be
a church joke there.
Be a great coffee shop in a church.
No.
Someone would get offended.
Yes. Oh, well, probably the Hebrews.
Somebody would get offended. But yeah, 2025 coming up, you start to look at age too, as you continue to grow, your life, we're all marching towards the end in some way, and things don't work like they used to, and stuff's harder to accomplish. But I think my challenge, I have a couple of things that have really been heavy on me. One personally is just to regain some form of edge in your life, to quit living a life. Yeah. Years ago, I was in.
Are you talking about like a primal edge? If we go
just an edge to be willing to do things that are difficult, hard, or dangerous.
We're talking about physical
and spiritual. Yeah. I mean, adventure in all aspects of life.
I like it. A little bit cowboy there.
But years ago, I was sitting in the hospital with our daughter when she was passing away. And, I was thinking about her, and I was looking around the hospital, and I see all these rooms full of kids. And
that's going to be depressing.
You're like, okay, none of these kids pretty much are going to leave this place.
Yeah.
A small number will, but their lives will never be normal. And, it hit me hard because I had been an athlete for years. So I'd been competing. And then when I got kids, I was like, I got to quit all that. And then it hit me. I was like, how stupid. You have two legs. Yeah. You can breathe. You can do all these things.
Do some stuff.
God has given you the ability to do something. So you should probably do it.
Yeah.
You should probably not waste your life sitting on the couch watching TV or doing those things. And it was something that convicted me last year, is that I just kind of lost that, the conviction to use what God had given me.
That's a good revelation to have, though.
So personally, that's why adventure is so important for me in the new year.
What are you going to do now?
I still don't know as far as that goes, but
hopefully something pushes across your.
Yeah, something will happen. It always does. But for broadly, for me and for just men in general, getting men excited about the body of believers is something this year that's really important to me. We talked about the stats. You can go watch Crisis in the Church episode on the channel, and you can see the stats. They're crazy. But, we were sitting there the other night, and we had about 7 guys who we sat down and we're like, why should men get involved with Pointman?
Yeah.
And I was the ability to articulate why it's so important was hard. It shouldn't be hard.
No, it is. Yeah. Driving home, I was like, you dope.
Yeah. I'm sure if all of them sat there for a second, they'd be able to. This year, it's going to be evident.
I want to be able to express my testimony to somebody and let them, feel God through what I have to say and what I offer. That way, there's a revelation in their life. Either get up off your seat and do something for the Lord, or go ahead and have enough conviction, or have enough seed that's planted there and have them come to know Christ. That's what I was thinking on the way home. I was like, what are you talking about, man? Yeah. What did you, I don't even know what I said.
I could play it. I don't remember.
Please don't. I'm going to recut that.
Yeah.
But Pointman was the catalyst that Jesus used for me to come to know him. It wasn't a Sunday service that I came and showed up to. It was a Wednesday night Pointman service in January 2023 that I showed up to. And that was what pushed me over the edge to be like, okay, these men are on fire for the Lord. There's more to this. Came the next week, and it was the same thing. The same people were still vocal, and I could feel the fire and energy in their voice, and that's what I wish I could articulated, in that little 10-second clip. But now the damage already been done. I'm already. It's been watered. I'm about to come to know him. And then when I did, I was like, I want to be part of Pointman in any way I can. I'm not going to do it perfectly, but it's a unique thing. I haven't sampled other churches, but it's not we have a very dynamic group of men. Very dynamic group of men.
It's not your traditional men's group where all the men have been in church for their whole life.
No, we have Faith Recovery that are guys that are sprinkled in there. We got guys that look like me. We got guys that look like you.
Guys who don't believe at all.
No,
they're trying to figure this thing out.
There's some secular people that are in there, and there's atheists that are in there, cultural Christians that are in there. It's 100 average.
Yeah, and guys from 20 to 90.
Yeah, there's guys in there that don't even come to our church
19 or 18 to 90.
Yeah, there's guys that don't come to our church on Sunday.
Yeah.
They just come to Pointman. That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
We love to have you on Sunday.
They come on Sunday.
Absolutely. Yeah. We love to transition over here to that church. But, you have access to who we get this message out to, who it hits, different countries, different age groups, how long people have been. It probably blows your mind on where it comes across their feed, that's cool too.
Some of them are interesting.
Yugoslavia or some wild country.
The breadth of reach. Somebody one time, I don't remember what they were talking about, but they made a great point. It was like, if you were in a room full of 100 people and you were delivering a conversation or a message to 100 people, you would feel good about there being 100 people in the room.
Right. Oh, yeah. I see where you're going with that.
But if you're online, you see 100, you're like, oh, that's not many. You have to think about each individual person being someone standing in the room.
That's a good perspective. That's a healthy perspective, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about it on here before, but the goal of the podcast was never to be great podcasters. The goal of the podcast was to be an extension of the ministry that's live and in person right here.
Yeah, we have I don't say a calling, but there is a fire within us to do this.
We wouldn't do it if there wasn't.
No, I'm not here to be famous.
Well, it's not even altruistic like that. It's just that the whole point was we roll in semesters.
It's an extension of the church.
Yeah, it's all it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so it was never the focus to online start reaching millions of people. In fact, the focus was to reach the 300 people that come to the church that are men. You know, that's really the goal. And to see other people get involved, what it's turned into is, I know as the year wraps, if you will, and we kind of think back over the last year, I've had lots of conversations with people who are not even a part of Pointman, don't come to church here, go to other churches, but they listen to the stuff that Pointman puts out.
Yeah, when I was in the hospital, and before I even like posted on social media that I was in the hospital, I had received a text message, and Leanna read it. She was like, "Hey, they're waiting for the next episode." I was like, there are local guys, or they're guys that I've connected with over the years, and are excited about my walk with Christ, and they get to know me a little bit more just through this, and they're like, "Oh, that connects with my life too."
It's like a long form testimony video.
Yeah.
It's over a year. We did a best of the first year we did the podcast, and it was just like some of the goofy stuff we did when we first started doing this.
Yeah.
Was just like we still don't have a clue what we're doing, but we had no clue back then.
Yeah.
What we were doing.
Well, no, was it May or June of 2023 you asked me to be part of Pointman, somewhere around there, maybe earlier than that.
I don't remember.
I got baptized in May. That may have been the trigger for you to come and finally ask me. And then we recorded with Mark.
Yeah, Mark's got to get another episode now.
We need to do him some due diligence. And then from that point on, it just progressively got better or worse, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I mean, technologically, it got way better.
Absolutely.
We essentially had a tape recorder and some crappy mics.
I think the next episode was John and Steve. And Steve brought up watching or looking at corn magazines, like in a truck camper.
Yes.
And I was like, we're putting this on? All right. We've crossed that. We've crossed that threshold.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of really cool. This year was a fun. I think it was all this year. We did the interview run.
Yeah.
This year, and we got to talk to some really cool people. We sat down with Nick Pierce, or I sat down with Nick Pierce.
God, it feels like a lifetime ago.
I think it was last spring.
Yeah.
Or last summer. Local tattoo artist, incredible artist. Incredible man of God, family man. That episode is awesome because it's just a perspective from an area of society that most people just immediately discount.
Yeah, it's also like Christians alone have read certain scripture before and they're like, oh man, we can't be doing that. We can't be in that realm, because your body's a temple type of thing.
And I mean, generally speaking, most tattoo shops I've been in have not been the greatest environments ever.
He runs a clean operation,
and he's a great person. Yeah. From what I know of him, he's tattooed my arm. And
I've been inked by him as well. Yeah. He did a cover up. I used to have a Confederate flag tattoo on my shoulder, and he was doing this thing. It was like every Wednesday at noon. If you text, you can do a free cover up, and was doing the God's work right there, from swastikas to all kinds of gang.
You didn't have that on.
I didn't have that on me. No.
I want to clarify. No,
mine was
yours was a dumb 16-year-old.
It was a state of Arkansas with a Confederate flag and the Browning gun manufacturer.
Literally nothing on earth more redneck.
If I had the words yee underneath it, then yes. But I went through the military.
F-150 tattooed on your forehead.
Yeah. I had that on me all through the military. So there was shame kind of in it because I got jumped in the military because of that tattoo and the showers. It was rough, man. Because where I was going to basic training was just north of Chicago, and so there's a big cultural aspect that was a gap.
It carries inherent issues.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a stain on it. And so whenever he was doing that, I was getting tires at Sherwood Tire, and the guy who runs the counter, his name's Happy, and he was telling me about it. And I was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
It was like 12:30 or like 11:30, and I was like, well, "I got nothing else to do. I'm gonna stare at my clock." And I texted, boom. Got it. 12:01. He drew a line. I got it. Got a free tattoo.
It's really funny. I got mine on one of those texted and see what happened.
I was like, this is amazing. Got to know him just sitting there for a couple. Well, we had to do outline first, and then a couple months later, we did the color. And my daughter was my wife was pregnant with my daughter at the time, and I was like, this is great because if we do photos, or if she gets older, she's got questions.
Yeah.
You know, like she's not going to see that. You know, and I'll tell her when she gets older, like a lot older. But yeah, Nick's a dude, solid man of God, but an amazing artist. Like if y'all go on Instagram and look at his stuff, it's the realism behind it is amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's got a gift. If you're ever in Sherwood, shout out to his business, Diamond State Tattoo.
Yeah, stop and grab.
Hard to get in, but
it is hard. But yeah, I did the same thing. He was like, I got an opening this afternoon. If you anything less than 6 hours or something, DM. I was like, I mean, why not? Yeah.
Sailor the other day, she was like, "Hey, Daddy, you gonna get some more tattoos?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm probably gonna get a whole sleeve." And like, I said it without the corner of my eye, waiting for Leanna to be like, "Nothing." I was like, "That's a yes."
Yeah.
It's
loading.
Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, we got tax returns coming up." You know,
this is the first year I didn't get a new one. 2024 is the first year I didn't get a new tattoo since I started.
Really?
Yeah, I've been getting them 1 or 2 a year since I started getting them.
That's pretty big. I would like to like wrap that whole thing around and have it just flow to the chest.
Bro, that inner bicep.
It is.
It hurts so bad.
Dude, I had a buddy in the Navy that had a. So the thing in the Navy is, it's called recruit handwriting. Whenever you're first joining the Navy, and you got to do all caps. It's like you're yelling the entire time. You can't do lowercase or anything. It's all caps. And if you make a mistake with a pen, you got to one line it an initial. That's a mistake, right? You can't erase. You got to keep going. And it was always a joke. One line an initial. Well, first thing out of basic, he gets a pen squiggly right there to flow with the bicep.
Yeah.
He put his initials right there and one lined it. Like it was like, I was like, that's pretty sweet. But he goes, it was the worst tattoo I ever got.
Oh, it hurts so bad.
His whole stomach was tattooed and everything, and like he had it tattooed all the way up, like the collarbone area. He had it all done, but he goes, that was violent. He had tops of his feet later done. The Navy has a bunch of
uniform rolls.
We have superstitions too. If you go look up like Sailor Jerry style tattoos, one of them is a pig and one's a chicken. On top of the feet, because if a ship goes down, back then they used to carry livestock on the ships, pirates included. If a ship goes down, a pig and a chicken is going to be the ones that survive and they float. And so sailors would get tattoos of pigs and chickens on their feet.
Oh, interesting.
And so if they went overboard, they would float. That was the superstition.
Yeah.
I'm not getting it, man. Not on top of my foot.
The only thing off limits on me is my face. But I'm a long way from. I don't plan to get another one for a while. So
I do. I just got being in the faith now and being so jazzed up for the Lord. I want to do something that like a lion or something along those lines, a cross. A lamb. I don't know.
I have a cross.
I'm huge into archery, and I don't even have an arrow.
I have an arrow.
I don't even have an arrow tattoo on me.
I just honestly, most of mine on my arm. A guy here in town named David, forget his last name. Sorry. Has done most of mine, and he's an incredible drawer, and so he'll draw a bunch of stuff up and be like, "I'll do any of these for this price." And I'm like, "That one."
Yeah. There's a size craft.
Yeah, let's load it up. But we had a bunch of credible interviews this year. We talked to Brandon Davis.
Yeah.
There's two videos on the channel with Brandon. Brandon was a former PBR bull rider. There's a full podcast with him, as well as me and him sat down live for a short interview about him and his faith and his walk and the life of being a professional bull rider. The question and answer part of the live one is awesome.
Yeah.
There was a guy in the back of the room. He was like, "How did you ride after you watched?" Did you ever have to ride after watching one of your friends get injured? And Brandon just dead stone face looks at him and is like, "I got on bulls after my friends died."
Yeah.
And it was the most, one of those, I don't know how we're going to continue this.
Yeah, the most famous bull rider to ever die was Lane Frost, and he died on a bull called Taking Care of Business. And his femoral artery was severed by being stepped on. He died pretty much in the mud in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Literally, like a week later, his best friend, Tough Heaterman, got on the bull, rode it for 16 seconds, ate for himself, and then ate for Lane. And I'm like, dude, that's stone cold.
That's gangster.
That's cowboy, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, golly. And then, like, as a kid growing up in rodeo, my dad was a welder, and so like he messed around with it. My dad was a state champ. Horse. We did showing horses, and we did cutters and all this other stuff. And I tried out riding bulls for a little bit. My dad's like, no, don't do that. Go do roping, or go do steer wrestling or something like that. Go lose a finger off
but don't die on a bull.
Because at the time, like, guys were kind of wearing helmets, kind of wearing Kevlar vests. They weren't really like pushing in safety a whole lot still. And now, if you're not wearing a Kevlar vest, you're an idiot.
I mean, it's a humongous thing.
Yeah,
that could trample you. Sorry, I was pulling up the episodes. I was trying to remember all the people we talked. We talked to a bunch of really cool people back.
That's a truck, jumping on top of you, and so better suit up when you get out there. Yeah, Brandon's it's public now. He's going to be a daddy.
Yeah,
he's got his own business now.
Married, business owner,
good business owner,
kid on the way.
Yeah, Davis Blasting. Shout out to that. There you go.
But awesome interview. Go check that out. It's called From Damaged Goods, which you'll know why, won't you? There's an incredible radio call with him. Yeah. Where they called him, they said they thought this man was damaged goods.
What's crazy is, like, so I'm 35. He's 34, 35, I believe. And, as an athlete, you think that you're still in your prime in your 30s. And they said he's the old man on tour. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
And he wasn't 34 then.
No, he was like maybe 31, 32. And I'm like, old man on tour? That's salty. Y'all leave him alone.
We had two more. These are my two favorite. Talking with Nick was awesome. Yeah. Hanging out with Brandon was awesome. But we talked with Brandon Burgess.
Oh, yeah.
He is a creative in LA. Yeah. Works with a group called Anchored Music. Yeah. They make really cool Christian t-shirts.
Yeah. Zach's, we love you, Brandon.
Yeah.
Come up with a better one and send to Zach.
It was actually one of their t-shirts I had on.
Yeah. Oh, Zach's goal for 2025 is to wear a tasteful Jesus t-shirt in public.
They actually make really cool. If you like Jesus t-shirts, if you're into streetwear and stuff like that, they make really cool stuff. But they make really cool worship music.
Yeah.
And Brandon is insanely creative. He creates some of the coolest like music videos for them and these effects that are just all over the place, and they're insane. But in this conversation, one of the things that I thought was really, really cool was we were talking to him a lot about being a Christian, and not just a Christian, but
in LA,
a Christian who is out front in business and in life and in creativity in LA, which a lot of people, I argue that Austin and Denver are worse than California, but he's in this space where it's not really, he said for him in the interview, you should go check it out, but he did make a point where he said that everybody in LA is spiritual.
Yeah.
And so the idea of being a Christian isn't really that frowned upon.
It's a melting pot
that he's run into. But when you say that Jesus is the only way, that's where he starts to run into some issues. But conversation's incredible. Brandon's super smart. They make some incredible stuff. We interviewed him. He was at his home. Of course, we didn't fly to LA.
No.
To have the conversation, but awesome dude, awesome company. Go check them out. And if you like streetwear, Anchored Music or Anchored Apparel.
Yeah.
Anchored Music's the music side. I think it's Anchored Apparel or something like that.
That's good stuff. We did was it Zoom or Teams kind of a,
it was a different version of Zoom,
and so it was
but he's a professional, so he had all the cameras and everything set up too.
Cool to see his perspective though on faith and what he needs to do for God
and what he's been up against.
Yeah.
Coming to faith, overcoming some church hurt and things like that.
I agree with what you're talking about with like Denver and Austin being weirder than LA. It's already set a tone there for decades. And so that's just normal for them. They don't have to try to be weird. Mm-hmm. Austin's on an island, Denver's on an island.
Seattle, Portland.
They're all on an island. Yeah. It's not like a coastal, like.
And they're not as melting pot-ish as LA is.
And so, like, they try to be. It's judgmental. Not really, but they want to stand out more for. It's an advertisement thing.
I've been to all three, and I can tell you Denver's.
Austin's kind of.
Way more.
Dallas was like, let's keep Dallas.
Yeah, Christian in Denver is a rougher trip. Than it is in places like LA, in my experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've never been to Denver, but I have a friend who was an Aurora cop, for a while, and just asked him
the same place.
Yeah, just asking him like, "What's the vastness of Denver?" He's like, "You have no idea," and it's like overnight.
Yeah. Well, Denver is a special place because it's so secluded from everything else. Yeah. My sister-in-law is from right outside of Denver, and her family's lived there forever. And her dad was actually telling me, he's like, you have to think about it. Like, for us to get to another major city is a long trip. You can't really, you have to fly, essentially, to get Vegas, I think, is the next closest city.
Over the mountain.
And so the trips are really hard. So Denver is really like... anything you can think of that you want, they have it because they've built the city up to where they don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, I have a dream to go to the Rockies, Colorado Rockies, and
I've been once. It's sick.
Watch the baseball game there.
Yeah.
Just it's a different atmosphere. The balls travel further there. Growing up in the '90s, you watched Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa at a home run derby. They're in an all-star game, and they're hitting 520-foot moonshots, like dead center.
Yeah.
And if you know how the Rocky Stadium is set up, that center field goes really high up and comes back over. It's kind of symbolism the mountain in a way. And you're like, they're clearing that thing.
Yeah. The downtown Denver area is cool too. And that part around the Rockies has got a bunch of cool restaurants and stuff.
Well, I mean, they're also NBA champs too.
They have all pro sports: hockey, baseball, basketball, football, lacrosse, soccer. They have CU Boulder, which is like 30 minutes away from downtown. Yeah. So you've got Dion and all of them.
Yeah.
You're 30 minutes from skiing in the mountains, if that far. World class running, cycling. Like they built everything you could possibly dream of in a place.
Sadly, they reintroduced wolves to the.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting over the next few years. Here nor there. And the last interview that we had in the spring that wasn't a point man was Sean Ely, Kingdom Core. And this was probably my favorite because I love metal music.
You and Josh were on that.
Me and Josh did. Yeah. Josh is a big metal guy too.
Yeah.
And that conversation was so sick. Kingdom Core is like, I don't even know how to, I'm trying to think of a big popular like secular music site like Boardroom or one of those on Instagram. Sean has kind of created that for the Christian metal world.
Please go check him out because you'll enjoy his page.
And the episode's really cool because it's like when you talk to a genius in a space.
Yeah.
And they know everything about the space.
Yeah.
Sean knows all of these guys. He talks to them. He knows what music's coming out. He knows
who was in the band last year and who's in it this year.
He's got great insights on bands from 10 years ago because he was around and listening to it back then. And he's strong in his faith.
Yeah.
We got into some of that too and talked about faith. And I think he went to Christian high school, maybe Christian college. So he's well Bible read and versed. And he actually, there's a lot of like, is this a Christian band? There's actually an Instagram called Is So-and-so or Is Blank a Christian band? And he gets into the lyrics of their songs and like, he doesn't promote bands that just say they are.
Right.
He's like into what is the theology here? What are they actually saying? And so he curates truly the best resource, in my opinion, if you like metal and rock music, for you to find Christian bands in that space. And so for us to sit down, I found so many bands just from that conversation, and I found so many more from his page, and some of them are some of my favorites now that I never knew existed.
So I'm not big in metal or whatever. I've been in the whole punk rock or just southern rock.
And there's some of that in there too.
And just being around you or just being around Josh to connect with y'all more, I've gotten into it just so I could, understand it more, that kind of thing. And I started following Kingdom Core last year, and it's just good stuff because, man, what an avenue for Christ to use.
Oh, yeah.
God's
been using that scene for so long, though.
Yeah.
Like, I remember...
all the way back to David. I'm just kidding.
But, like, in the early 2000s, when scene metal and, like, the scream metal, which all of our old listeners just were like... But when all that got really popular, it was Christian bands that really led the way for a lot of that. Of course, there was a lot of secular bands in that mix too, but there was a big, some of the most popular bands during that time were Christian bands.
You also got a lot of these teens and kids that have been in music playing. If they've been remotely close to a church have probably played in a church in some way.
If they play an instrument or something.
If they play an instrument. And so there is an aspect of their life that's still there, and they can either choose to bring it to the forefront and go that avenue, or they can choose to just use it as a stepping stone.
When I was a teenager, though, like Christian rock had a renaissance in a way. You had bands, you had the soft side of it. You had like Switchfoot, which is...
Was Switchfoot Engage?
No, that's Kill Switch Engage.
Kill Switch Engage. Oh, okay.
That's not a Christian band. Switchfoot, though, and they were kind of like
That's close.
like a Creed level of heavy.
Shout out Scott Stapp.
Something in that vein. They were not a Christian band.
I don't know.
They're not. He said they're not. But
What about Jet?
I don't know who Jet is.
You don't know who Jet is?
No.
Oh, okay.
But there was that kind of world, and then there was the super heavy side, and they had a kind of a renaissance too. And so
Those are the Killers.
the Killers are the ones that are
That's the one I'm thinking about. They're borderline.
they are a Christian band,
Yeah.
and all their songs have
I messed up your thought there. I'm sorry.
undertones. I kind of question that one a little bit. The more I've thought about it, I'm wondering if there's maybe
Is
like
it Mr. Brightside, right?
Yeah. Which the lyrics and tone are right. I just don't know where their faith lies. I wonder if they're Christians or if they're Mormons that say they believe in. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But
Follow that old,
Not important.
old Joseph Smith there.
but no matter what, Sean Ely was a great interview. Kingdom Core's the page. It's blown up. It's got tons of followers. It's a great resource for if you love rock music, metal music, and I just love getting to sit down and talk with him about it.
So like Josh David, like we're not the same age. You know, there's a gap there. And you can see the wisdom in his hair. You know, we're a little bit different.
I don't think he's that much older than you.
He looks older. Josh has probably got a lot of stress out working where he works at.
Josh gonna come over and stab you now.
Yeah. Some Kingdom Core music in the background. No, but he's got a vast knowledge of rock.
He does.
And so like I pick at it, you know, from time to time. I have certain friends growing up that were huge into like Pantera. And so like I watched them mourn like Dimebag Darrell when he passed, you know, and I'm like, Josh sent me something about Pantera. Like it was just kind of like I think it was like Elmo.
Yeah.
Kermit the Frog. You know,
It's where they're counting. I think.
Yeah.
One. No, it's not even Pantera. But yeah,
I forget. It may have been in the same reels that we were sending back and forth. It was a Pantera one, and I was like, "R.I.P. Dimebag Darrell," you know. And Josh like a tear, you know.
Well, Josh is he's been around rock music. Him and James both have been big.
Well, that's how I know James is from. We had some friends that were. Well, James always been in the music scene growing up, but we had some mutual friends that were signed by Warner Brothers at one point, and just pounding around with them as high school kids at Vino's and whatever, and we got to watch Evanescence take off.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun as a kid. I'm wearing Wranglers and a band t-shirt.
I'm trying to get James to teach me how to play guitar just enough to play.
Yeah. Also, when we had our
he's like,
when we had our candlelight service, and he was like his pedals were close to the stage edge, and I was like, oh, we're doing a solo. The whole time I'm like not really hearing the lyrics. I'm just waiting for James like just like riff rolling right off with some distortion, and I'm like, it's happening. And I'm trying to hear the tracks.
Yeah.
You know, there's 3 guitarists up there. I'm trying to hear the tracks, and I'm like, okay, there's a bass.
He wasn't gonna do it.
And I was like, come on, buddy. I was like, just one time for Jesus. You know?
But I just wanted to point those episodes out, because that was a lot of fun this year. If I was to do a wrap on this year, we had a bunch of great podcasts, some great conversations with men from Pointman too. But those couple were just really cool. We were focused. We were going into a semester called Act Like Men, or coming out of a semester Act Like Men.
Yeah.
And we had been talking about the biblical man and looking at men in the Bible and lessons, the good, the bad, the ugly, essentially, of those men. And then, to flip that, and we took a perspective of these are men who are doing hardcore music, tough space for Christians a lot of times.
There's a line you have to toe.
Yeah, and Sean's on the forefront of promoting the God glorifying side of that space. We talked to Nick's in the tattoo world, and the tattoo world's edgy and it's rough at times, and Nick is constantly giving glory to God in every post and giving Bible verses and tattoos lots of Christian imagery, and he does an incredible job of doing that in a space that's kind of dark. And Brandon Burgess is in LA. He's making art. He's in the creative space.
These are the fringe men. They're fringe.
They're not in the normal sections of society. They're in tough sections of society doing the Lord's work, if you will. And so I just find those interviews, in Brandon Davis no different. His is
you would think the rodeo world would be super Christian.
Well, on the surface it is.
It is. That's a brand.
Yeah.
It's a brand. Let's pray before we go ride a bull, type of thing. All the cowboys kneel after they win. But there's a lifestyle that's in there where you're on the road away from family.
Yeah.
And so there's these triggers and there's these temptations that are out there, and you get stuck in it.
Yeah.
And there's also the outlaw aspect of it.
Right. And so we got to sit down with these people in these different spaces, and I learned so much. I'm not in any of those spaces.
No.
But I learned so much from each of them about like living the life God has designed for them in spaces and in places. And even if you're a lawyer, teacher, doctor, preacher, whatever you do, for line mechanic, whatever it is you do, you may not be facing some of the same, pushback and things that they do at times. But I learned so much about just processing outside opinion and how people interact with them, and how their faith was strengthened in different times, or the things that they focus on to keep their faith intact. And I just thought they were great conversations to have this year. And I look forward to finding some more folks to talk to like that next year.
I rejoice in the fact that God has given us the ability just to reach out and have these conversations with people that do not look like a normal clergy member or whatever.
They're not preachers.
They're not preachers. And so God doesn't call us all to be preachers either. God calls us to be disciples of the world,
Right.
And these people are in the mud, or they're on the road, or there's not a cookie cutter aspect to it,
Right.
And so like they don't have polo and pleated pants, and they're not well put together, which either were half the people that spread the gospels, if they're fishermen, tax collectors, go on and so forth, like with that. And so it kind of makes you feel confident that we're gonna further his mission,
and that we can do it wherever you're
absolutely,
at. Yeah. Nick was somebody I wanted to interview since we started the podcast. It was like,
it's an interesting lifestyle.
Uno number one, because I knew he was popular and famous in his space, and I always admired his artwork and stuff.
His name has recognition in the tattoo world.
Yeah, and I always wanted to interview him, and I never reached out. But when I was getting tattooed, I walked in, and it's a tattoo shop. His is exceptionally nice, but it's a tattoo shop.
It's a super clean place, man.
And
it is nice.
He had his Bible was sitting on his couch in his office, and I was like,
some Star Wars people.
I was like, today's the day.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's the Holy Spirit pushing you.
I was like, hey man, you want to? We run this podcast for a men's group. You want to come join? He's like, if you know him or you've been tattooed by him, he doesn't talk a whole lot.
Yeah,
and so
the brief moments I've been with him, he's a thinker.
Yeah,
he's a thinker.
And so I was like,
good thing.
Well, if you change your mind, come, just let me know. And I actually went to elementary school with his wife, and he messaged me like a few days after. He was like, I was talking to my wife. She said I should do it. And I was like, let's go. I was like, when? Just tell me when, and we'll make it happen.
Well, thank you, Miss Pierce.
Yeah. I was like, just tell me when, and we'll make it happen. So we ended up coming up here late one night and doing it. But it's been an awesome year for the pod. It's been an awesome year for Pointman.
Let me ask you this question. Yeah. So you're in a pastoral role.
Yep.
You're on the inside. Do you feel a forward momentum growth with that church and Pointman going forward into 2025? Do you feel like there's a good head of steam going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not the numerical side of it for sure, but I think the spiritual side of it even more. One of the things that I was so excited for last year was we did the Bago tournament 2 years ago, and it was awesome. It was fun. We had this massive group of men there. We played Bago. We gave away a bunch of money and prizes and stuff, and it was great. It was great. This year, the tournament dropped a little bit. It wasn't quite as many guys that showed up, but I would have a Tuesday night Bible study, and there's like 25 guys who walk in the door.
Dude, okay, so I've been talking to your father-in-law, and each time that we talk about it, it's organic in the aspect that God's blessed it. That's the feeling that we have.
or community group or whatever it is. And the groups are growing. And that's the side that's exciting.
Yeah.
Is that the Bible is exciting people.
No, it's coming to life.
Yeah.
It's coming to life for them. And men aren't vulnerable at all. Y'all need to be. Let me just tell you that. It's healthy to be, in a sense. Don't be too vulnerable. Still have your guard up a little bit, but because people will use it against you. But no, it's been going on 2 months now, 3 months now, and pushing to the book of John. And I've grown closer to those guys that are in there. You know, I've learned more about them in that way. And so like when I see them on Sunday service, it's a brotherhood, you know, like the community aspect of things has gotten deeper.
Well, I think the community aspect's gotten better, but I think it's genuinely, we still were doing some stuff, like we were doing breakfast for a while, and breakfast was great, but we would have 20 guys show up for breakfast at 6 a.m. We'd have a great speaker. We brought in guests. We'd have breakfast food and stuff. And the focus wasn't it was the Bible was the center, but the focus was on the attribute, if you will.
Yeah.
So if it was leadership, the focus was on leadership, of course, from a biblical perspective, of course, teaching the Bible, but leadership was the conversation. The guest was a leader in some capacity. We had a football coach for that one. And 20 guys would show up or less. And then we'd go the same night, we'd walk in Bible study where the Bible is the only we have no food. We've got no it's not a teaching. It's literally
the bread of life.
John 1:1. And start reading, and we'll talk about it as we go. And we had more guys showing up to that. And I think it feels like it's a testament to what just broadly is happening of when you get into God's word, and not that this has never not been the truth, but the gimmick isn't needed.
Right. There's no pageantry.
Yeah. It's just, let's talk about this. What does God's word say? Yeah. What is going on? And that's been super. But I've seen it across the board, you know, Pointman nights. There used to be things that we did. We used to have kind of a fellowship time and prayer groups and these small group conversational pieces. And the message would be shortened for those. This last time we didn't shorten the messages, but guys were more in tune to the messages than they were to the other aspects of the night.
I feel like men have been led astray by the world, or just more or less probably the church in general, you know, just people. And when they see something that's direct and it's focused on one thing and there's no smoke and mirrors behind it, it's blunt. Men like to be that way. It's digested. It's digested in a healthier way, an applicable way. Yeah. You know, like, oh, this is what the Lord meant. This is what the Lord meant for me to do. This is his standard. I can't change his standard. I have to try every day to live up to his standard. The Bible study to me is it's rich in camaraderie. It's rich in what did John mean when he was writing this point, you know, and I believe there's guys that are in there that are understanding the Bible for the first time. You know?
Or we're taking it slow.
Yeah.
We're walking through. We're discussing little aspects of it.
If you read John, God reveals himself in the flesh. And this is what's happening in this Bible study. Is this guys are being revealed to them on the severity of what God's about to do for us.
And it's not just our Bible study. There's some of the other men's groups are still meeting, and they're having incredible conversations.
Our past community group, shout out to Stephanie and James, our community group that we had, I believe it's an absolute success. We started out with just me and my wife, Stephanie and James, and like 2 other people. And then this is our 3rd time around for community groups again that we just had, and we've got 20 people in there. Probably have to cap it right there, but you know, we started off with just a couple chairs. Now we have 2 tables, you know, and we have a guy that came off the street, and I've grown close to him and trying to help him out. He just randomly came off the street and joined our group. Absolutely God thing right there. Like we have a purpose now, you know, and so there's stuff going on inside that church in general that, you know, it's being probably anointed. I don't know the terminology for it, but it's definitely inside the lane of God.
Yeah, but I do. I think that the growth is numerical, but definitely, I just see a spiritual growth and development and a hunger for that from
Numerical
people.
wise, do you know how many people came over to the candlelight service? New people we had
Oh, new people
that
who come
actually
in the
filled
church?
out something.
Oh, in the last week, from Sunday to Sunday, there was 53
Okay.
new families.
Am I getting the dates right when I say January 18th or January 19th for Discover That Church?
19th.
19th? Okay. I'm hoping that some of those people show up for that.
Yeah, it would be awesome. But yeah, it's,
Are you teaching that?
I am. Yeah, I teach most of those.
Do you need help?
Probably. Yeah, there's like 52 for Christmas or something like that, 54. And then we had 22 more new families join us on Sunday.
Awesome.
Yeah, so 70 something new people.
I see some of their faces, that, I serve all the services or attend one and serve the others. I'll see them and give them a hug or whatever. And it's been 3 or 4 weeks now that they've been here. I'm like, this is awesome.
Hey, bring it on. Just more work for me to do.
That's right. Yeah, Zach needs it.
I need more work.
No, it's nice.
Bring it on.
We've been here. Me and my wife have been here for 2 years now. Just January will be 2 years. And the people that we've have become friends with and consider them family, it's lifelong. Mm-hmm. We didn't see that. We did not see that coming. I mean, God did obviously, but we didn't see it coming.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool place. And in 2025, if I want to leave y'all with this, one, let's fix that hierarchy that me and Luke kind of talked about. God's the base of everything you do in your life.
Yep.
Take care of yourself and take care of your family. Provide, make an income, support your family the best of your ability. And then anything that you enjoy doing that's fun, that comes last.
Yeah.
But reset our framework in 2025. I mean, it's a new year. I'm not into resolutions and all that, but if we can just reset our focus in that way and allow God to move and work in our life from that, I think we'll have an incredible year. And so with that, we'll let you go today. That's the end of our first ep of the new year. 2025 is
see you next year.
Off and rolling. Yeah, I guess by the time this comes out, it'll already be next year.
Right, yeah.
But we've been so happy, and it's been such an honor to get to talk with you all over the last year. And I look forward to more fun and more excitement in 2025.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time.